Number 3 seed UConn is on to the Sweet 16 after beating number 6 seed Syracuse 72-64. And UConn seemed in control most of the game, but then at the end of the fourth quarter, it was like Syracuse was making a push, and it felt like too little, too late, and probably too much Paige Bueckers. Ice Paige dissected Syracuse's zone for 32 points. She also added 11 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. How did she keep steadying UConn over the course of the game?
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with Paige, and I felt like I'm not sure how could we be more impressed with Paige. Like the way in which she controlled the game offensively for them, but also defensively. I mean, she's had to do a ton in the fact that they've went through so many injuries, and then she's had to lead freshmen. But I think 2 things really stood out to me. One, her assist to KK Arnold for the 3 towards the end of the game. That really felt like the dagger. The level of trust she showed in her freshman to knock down that big shot. And then once Nika Mule fouled out with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, it was Paige Bueckers that was guarding De'Asia Fair. And I honestly think that was the difference in those last minutes of that push. I think Paige deserves a ton of the credit for, one, scoring how she did, but also defending how she did. I'm just thoroughly impressed with what she showed us.
That's kind of the story of the season for Paige with all of the injuries. She's had to stay really flexible, play multiple positions over the court, be whatever the team needs, and she showed great decision-making and poise, to your point. And one of the other players that stepped up with her is Freshman of the Year for the Big East in Ashlyn Shade. Cass, I know you wanted to point out just how great she was against Syracuse's zone, knocking down that corner 3, busting them up. She had 19 points in this game. Don't forget, in the first round, she had 26 points. So how about this freshman shining bright on this huge stage?
Yeah, the last few days when we talked about this game, we said that the X factor was going to be who was going to step up around Paige and Aaliyah, because those two are the go-tos. Aaliyah didn't have the greatest offensive game, and it was Ashlyn Shade. She hit some huge corner threes, as you said, had poured in the points, 7 of 12, 5 of 9 on 3-pointers. And you had mentioned KK Arnold's late 3 there. That's another freshman starter who really stepped up in the big moments. And that's what you need, especially for a team that's running on a short bench.
Yeah, those freshmen were incredible. I'll tell you who else was incredible. Let's look to the other side for Syracuse. We did see records broken tonight. Despite shooting 6 for 22, Syracuse's De'Asia Fair dropped 20 points, and that moved her up 2 positions on the all-time NCAA scoring list, passing both Jackie Stiles and Kelsey Mitchell. And now she stands at 3rd all-time. Her historic college career ended today now with this loss. Ice, I know you're a Syracuse alum. You have a special appreciation. Any hoop head should have a appreciation. But how should she be remembered as a collegiate player?
I think as one of the best scorers we've seen all time. I mean, when you finish 3rd all time behind the names that you just gave, Jackie Stiles, I mean, Kelsey Mitchell, these are buckets that we're talking about. I think most impressive for me really is De'Asia Fair's, her personality. I mean, she is a quiet, humble person, doesn't talk a lot, not the biggest personality, but on the court though, she's completely different, takes over. I think just from a Syracuse standpoint, I've thoroughly enjoyed bringing her into the family, and I've thoroughly enjoyed what Coach Felicia Jack has done with her. I think we talk all the time on broadcasts and behind closed doors about just their relationship and that mother-daughter relationship, and you love to see it, that, Coach Jack was at Buffalo, De'Asia Fair followed her to Syracuse, like that trust, that love, that commitment, and they built a beautiful story together.
Coach Jack, when I spoke to her a few weeks ago, as you said, she said, I asked her, you've been asked this 1,000 times, but what makes De'Asia Fair so good? She said her humility. And I think also if we're talking about De'Asia Fair, a lot of people are going to say, well, she did it in 5 years instead of 4, but her games played are about on par with some other players because Buffalo did not make deep tournament runs.
Oh, that's an interesting point. And certainly to your point about character, I think that absolutely translates onto the court. But even in the face of De'Asia's scoring prowess, UConn marches on to its 31st Sweet 16.